Looking at the text.
All right, I've got 3 o'clock Eastern. So thank you everybody for joining. Again, this is a very casual conversation, so don't be shy in asking questions. I'm going to be bouncing back between a couple slides here and then showing you the live examples of our education and the standards as well, which is all on our website. But just obviously, we want to keep this open and ask questions so that everyone here, as we kind of go through this process and talk about the steps in implementing the apprenticeship program for your company, that you feel fully comfortable and knowledgeable about each step and the standards and what you need to do to keep moving forward and what your apprentices will experience on the education side. Joining me from the Institute of American Apprenticeships is our partners in crime sometimes, Katie and Tasha. They're here to make sure I say all the right things and then to jump in and help me with the presentation. Obviously, they are the experts. They know these standards inside and out and will help me speaking on them and can answer those questions. So again, don't be shy, jump in, ask some questions, and we will get started. Okay, so again, this is really to connect with PHTA as the sponsor of the apprenticeship programs. If most of the people here, I think, are relatively aware of our program or have started the process in one way or another. If you're not, a quick introduction is that PHTA has 2 registered apprenticeship programs, Maintenance and Service Technician Apprenticeship Program and the Pool Installer Technician Program. Both of them are registered with the U.S. Department of Labor, which is a wonderful thing because we went through the process and what you'll see here with the standards and the Appendix A and D through the Department of Labor, through our education, through all the components that make up this program. And that's one of the key parts that also is a benefit to you as an employer. When your apprentice graduates through this program, they receive that credential, which is great for you as the employer to promote to your customers and really great for your employees to have that sense of pride and education that they've completed this fantastic apprenticeship program, which is built by our members, for our members, and unique to our industry. So super excited that, again, we're going to talk about the process, whether it's, setting up that initial meeting with me and talking about the apprenticeship program, the benefits to you as the employer or to your staff, whether you're recruiting people or bringing on people into the program that you already have as current staff. We also as a reminder, had a webinar in December that really talked a lot about the value of apprenticeship programs to employers and to apprentices and why you get involved. So hopefully you were on that and you said, yes, this is perfect for me and I want to get involved and I'm ready to take the next step. But again, we'll talk about the enrollment forms. We'll talk about the standards, the Appendix A and Appendix D. And then I'll show you a live from our website on how your apprentices access their education and how easy it is for them to do so. And again, Katie and Tasha, I know I'm going to keep talking because it's my chance to talk, but jump in anytime. And anybody else, jump in with questions, please. Don't be shy. So this is the very first step. This is what we call the enrollment form. And this is really more for my benefit to make sure that I have all your company employer information, the right contact person who would be the liaison between you as the employer and PHTA staff, so that we can properly make sure that you get updates when we're adding new tools and resources, whether it's mentor tools or spreadsheets to help you track your apprentices' core work processes, hours, things of that nature, that we have that and are properly able to enroll you. If you are service and construction and you want to do both, you can sign up here. The great thing, and I think all of you are members, there's no enrollment fee as a member. We waive that fee. If you're a non-member, it's $500, but let's talk about that and let's get you to join so you don't have to pay that fee. Also, as members, individual enrollment forms, when we get to that point, if you're non-members, there's a fee. For members, there's no fee for that. Again, very simple, just to get it started, get your information, make sure we have the right people in the database, make sure we're contacting the people you want us to contact in that program, and get the ball rolling. Okay, so I'm gonna rely on my colleagues here to talk a little bit about the apprenticeship standards.
Awesome. Thanks, Seth. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. It's really good to see you all. So apprenticeship standards, these are, so reviewing standards, that was the third thing that was on that next steps list. So once you've expressed interest, you've submitted that enrollment form, Seth's gonna send you some copies of the standards. I promise you, this will not be the most exciting thing you read because as you can see, it's a templated document that comes from the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship. And although it's a templated document, it is, it outlines each component of a registered apprenticeship program. And the important thing to note here is that these standards are specific to each organization who submits for apprenticeship standards. So PHTA has already done the heavy lifting on this. There's a set of standards that's approved. The standards themselves are about a 7-page document that you'll go through. And then included in that are a couple of appendices. And I'm going to say Appendix A is probably the most important. I mean, they're all important, I should say that, but the Appendix A is really what you're all concerned about. What are they going to learn? What are they going to be doing? What do we need to do? So this 7-page standards document, like I said, it outlines each of the important components of an apprenticeship program. The reason that we need to share this with you all is that as an apprenticeship sponsor, PHTA they have a lot of requirements and responsibilities as a sponsor. So this could be from keeping certain documentation to ensuring that equal employment opportunity regulations are met. So that's why it's important for you to read through those, because as an employer partner or a member partner, you are also going to be responsible for keeping certain documentation. Seth is excellent about outlining and simplifying that and sending you exactly what you need. So you shouldn't worry too much about that piece of it, but just do a quick review of this to make sure that you have a good understanding of what those responsibilities are. So let me see, did I miss anything? The really key pieces as you're going through that 7-page standard document is right on page 2, it says responsibilities of a sponsor. And then the other pieces that you'll want to pay close attention to are like the EEO requirements or the complaint procedures, so that you know and your apprentices know who they can reach out to should they have any issues with the program. So what you'll see in this, and I covered the sponsor responsibilities, but there's also minimum qualifications. You're going to read a little bit about what we call the work process schedule and related instruction. And I know Seth's going to cover that in a little bit. But then it also talks about those selection procedures, complaint procedures, and then just general contact information that you should have from the registration agency, which is the U.S. Department of Labor Office of Apprenticeship. So I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what that entails. Should you have any questions about any of the, it's a lot of kind of, government type language. Should you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I think Seth's going to go into a little more detail about the Appendix A next. But are there any questions on the standards? We could save them for later too. Okay.
All right, oops, skipped ahead there a little too quick. So Appendix A is one of the documents you'll receive that, as Katie mentioned, goes through the type of occupation, the term of the apprenticeship, selection procedures, probationary period, ratio of journey worker to apprentice, the apprentice wage scale, work process schedule, related instruction outline. And this is important and where we tend to get a lot of questions. So again, don't be shy. If you have looked at this and have questions, jump in, unmute yourself and just ask. This is important as you're kind of going through and looking at the documents and starting to fill out your paperwork to understand what, so like first, like the term of the apprenticeship. We have that based on the number of hours. So if you're doing the service or the pool installer, there's a little bit different in the number of hours in related education, which you can find online. And I can show you there too, where on our website, all of these appendixes, all the standards, all the enrollment forms, everything is all in one place for you. And provides you all the information you probably ever want to know about the apprenticeship program if you haven't gotten to this part yet. The ratio of apprentices to journey workers, the wage scale. So the wage scale goes through, and let me pull up our actual one so that you can see this and see it in live. So be patient with me as I kind of cross over into my side here. And again, this is on the website, on the PHTA website, apprenticeship.phta.org, facts and resources. Here, you're going to find a ton of information about the program, links to what we talk about, especially if you want to learn more about programs with the Department of Labor. But here's where you'll find our Appendix A for both and D for both the service and maintenance and the pool installer. So for this process, I'm going to show you just the service because I've got that one pulled up for the appendix. And this is already filled out for you. So as you can see, this is a competency-based apprenticeship approach. For the service side, we the 182 hours of related instructions. Apprenticeship is 1-to-1 on the journey worker. So a lot of times people ask, well, what considers a journey worker? Do they have already had to go through this program? No, they don't have to have gone through this program, but the journey worker is typically the person, maybe yourself or someone on your staff that is doing the training. They have the knowledge, the experience, the expertise, the ability to mentor and train that apprentices in the core work processes, which we'll show you here. This is also our wage scale. Another question commonly we get is, well, I'm already paying my new employee $16 an hour. Well, great. You don't have to worry about that. You've already accomplished the wage scale. You might say, even the wage scale seems pretty low for our time now, but it was purposely set that way because we know different demographic areas across the country may have to pay different. You know, if you're here like myself, right outside of Washington, D.C., where everything is overly expensive, you probably won't find anybody for $12 an hour because McDonald's is paying $20 an hour. That might be different in some regions of the country, but as we've heard, the price of labor has gone way up. So if you're already paying $16, $17 an hour, you got this box checked.
Yeah, and Seth, if I could just add,
Please,
you
please.
you can always pay more than what is listed on this. You just can never pay less than the starting wage. And you'll also see that, each member probably has a different wage schedule that's already set up. And so when you go to sign on and sign what they call an employer acceptance agreement, you can actually specify what your wages are there. So that's where that flexibility comes in. And Seth, I hate to go back too much, but I'm wondering if anyone is wondering, Seth mentioned competency-based program earlier. Is anyone wondering what the differences there are? Because I won't go into it if you're all good, but
Can I ask a question on the wage scale?
Yeah,
So,
please.
so you're saying, so if I'm paying somebody $16 an hour, I've already checked that box. But what you were talking about before was this type of pay scale is also meant to create loyalty, right? In your workforce. How would you suggest, if I'm already paying it like $18 an hour for and I'm already checked that box, how do I create that loyalty that I'm missing out with already having that meeting that wage scale?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Nothing here prevents you from creating your own wage scale or incentive program. So it could still be following that same first 6 months, second 6 months, where you say to your employee, hey, you're enrolled in this program, you're going through this training and education. If you follow this process and you achieve and do this education and follow these courses, and after the first 6 months, we're going to evaluate where you are, talk about where you're at, and incentivize them by saying, okay, well then after that first 6 months, I'm going to bump you to $17, $18 an hour. So that even though you're not following this wage scale because you're already above it, you can implement your own wage scale to incentivize that apprentice to continue to learn and give them that opportunity like this to grow and receive incentive to continue the educational pathway and to work hard. Looks like John,
Okay.
you got a question too. Oh, sorry, Matt.
No,
No, yeah, I was going to say that in my understanding then of the time-based versus competency-based is like, for example, a time-based guy would be a guy who's been in the job for 2 years, gets bumped because he's been there that long, whether he's great or not. It reminds me of kind of like union workers, where unions get pay raises after a certain period of time. There may be also a competency-based type of acceleration in their jobs as well. In our career, at least in my business, our guys are raised in pay or promoted or whatever because they're better at their job as time goes on, right? So if they get a CPO and then for whatever reason get a CPI and then a CMS and then a CST and those kinds of things, then that's competency-based acceleration versus just being there for a long time or not a long time. Am I correct in understanding that? And then I guess a hybrid would be the both.
yeah, no, you described that really well, John. And it's really this apprenticeship and competency-based apprenticeships are ensuring that someone can demonstrate everything that they need to demonstrate to do the job before they complete the apprenticeship. In time-based programs, you're right, they put their time in and they can be signed off. So that was a great explanation. Thank you. And Matthew, I just wanted to also add that when you're thinking about your apprenticeship wage scale, knowing that it's going to probably be higher than what is listed in this Appendix A, I would still think about the fact that you are building your talent rather than buying it. So you could consider still starting off at a lower starting wage than you would with someone who's already has the skills and education necessary to be in the occupation, and work a wage increase in there, because that is going to that's going to be the carrot that you can kind of dangle for them to continue on in their education and training.
And that competency made me think about, the core work processes, which we have here, which you as the employer are, as part of that program and evaluating the apprentice through their journey. And listed here, those core work processes, which we also have for our employers, a spreadsheet that helps you track that. So when you're meeting with them and evaluating them as they go through the process and taking the education and demonstrating out in the field, allows you to rate them and then sign off when they've hit those achievements through their apprenticeship journey. So as we continue to go through here, again, we not only do we talk about, the technical work competencies, but the behavioral. I was when I first started working with the apprenticeship programs and learning about the standards and the appendix, it seemed silly to think about maybe sometimes, well, are they showing up to work on time and maintaining a positive attitude? But a lot of that, surprisingly, is things that we do have to teach and share, especially with different generations coming up and ways that people are open to working in our industry. So this also helps you evaluate them and make sure that they're following into those pathways of being a professional. And the rest of this standard, when we talk, and I'm going to show you this live so you can see, but this is the courses of all the PHTA education that is part of the apprenticeship program is here, and it's all on the PHTA LMS, and I'm going to show you that a little bit later on. But here you can see that the education is laid out, so you can see the courses. You can get a description of the courses, what the learning objectives of each of those courses are. And as PHTA develops new courses, we will be adding different courses, getting them approved by the Department of Labor, so that your apprentice, no matter where they are through their journey, will have the education and training they need. And one, I think, valuable point about our education and training is that all of our education and training is based off of our PHTA standards, which are approved by ANSI, American National Standards Institute. And why that's so important is that we want to make sure that when we're training and you're training your people, that the education is following these standards, because in a lot of places throughout the country, those standards are law, and it's important that whether it's construction or service, that we're following those standards and that the education and training is teaching to those standards as well. So tons of education in there, as you can see. Again, we'll show you a little bit later on the actual live PHTA website where your apprentices sign on and access their education and training courses. I do see we've got some questions in the chat, so I'm just going to pause 1 minute, go in here and make sure we, someone says that they don't see my screen. Let me make sure that, can you guys, anybody else see my screen, or is it, am I not?
I can see it. I can see it, Seth.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it looks like Katie, thanks. It looks like you guys are answering them for me, so I appreciate that. Okay, so let me jump back to our PowerPoint and we'll continue. Again, got questions, jump on, don't be shy.
So like if I'm training my employees with this kind of platform, and what's to say like that once I have my employees trained, that they're not going to leave and go someplace else? Like people are going to send people in to get me to train people, and then they're going to promise them, okay, once you go through with him and then he comes over, then I'll hire you for more than he's going to pay you. Just go through.
Do you mind if I answer that one out of experience?
Sure, jump in, yeah.
As a business owner, we have, when we haven't participated in this program yet or not. We haven't sent anybody to it yet, but we're going to. But in our experience, what we've done is we've had a contract requirement after a certain amount of training. Like, for example, when I send my guys to get their CPO license, we require them to be on staff for at least a year, or they have to pay back all of that training. For this apprenticeship program, we're going to require 3 years, or they have to pay back all of the training. And it's fairly expensive. I'm going to spend a lot of money to do this. That keeps them on board because A, they don't want to spend the $3 or $4 or $5 or $10,000 to pay back. And I guess somebody could leave, but whatever. But that's in our actual employment contract. And then as we go forward with the apprenticeship, we'll adjust it for the apprenticeship, but then that's kind of where we are with it. It's not really a punishment, but it's more of a kind of an enticement to stick around so that, you know, you get all this training and you get all these letters after your name and everything else, then it would be nice if you showed some loyalty. And I mean, you can't teach loyalty, they just have to have it, I guess, but it's one of
So
the
non-compete
Genesis
within the
yeah,
contract.
non-compete and a, you know, non-disclosure agreement. He can't take it to somebody else and teach them how to do this and kind of thing. So, I mean, we pay for it. They should, you know, stick around, but whether they do or not is another story sometimes.
It's a good question. It's definitely one of the things we hear often about talking about the apprenticeship programs is I'm investing in the employee. You know, what happens if they don't like it or they realize working outside in the sun is not for everybody. Many of our employers that have started the program, a lot of times they'll bring on an employee or have do it with an employee that's been around for at least 6 months or so. So they've kind of tested them out, got a feel for them that they're actually going to stick around, that they're interested and they're worth investing in. Obviously, that could be part of your recruitment process, or looking at really training folks that you feel that are committed to you and hopefully aren't trying to utilize you as a educational resource to move on. I know in Department of Labor showing statistics though that folks that do go through apprenticeship program have a higher renewal rate and show more loyalty to their employer because of that investment. But certainly I think it's always a good sense of awareness to make sure that who you're hiring or bring on is someone that you do really want to invest in and give them the training and education.
And the other thing to mention is that there is, with apprenticeship, there is a mechanism in place for, so say you bring on a new employee, but you're not quite sure if they're a good fit for the apprenticeship or for that occupation just yet. You could have, you know, hire them on for 3-4 months, however long it takes to determine whether or not they're a good fit for your organization, and then enter them in the apprenticeship. The time that they've spent employed with you is not lost. There's this mechanism called credit for prior experience. And so when you end up entering them into the apprenticeship, we could enter those hours so that they get credit for that time in the apprenticeship. So there are different ways that, you know, individually, each one of your organizations could kind of determine when is the best time to sign individuals up for the apprenticeship.
There's also the probationary period mechanism, which similar to what Katie's describing is once they are registered, there is this window where you can determine, and as well, the apprentice can determine that this is or is not a fit for, you know, this agreement, and either one of you can walk away and you know, kind of sever that apprenticeship agreement.
And
quite honestly, that's not used very often, but it is a mechanism. I'm just sharing with you, tying into what Katie said, but it's not used terribly often, but it is an option.
Yeah, and to Trisha's question about investing money into someone and they're terrible, what we could also do with this apprenticeship, and in the standard, you'll see there are certain selection procedures. We could help go through those and help identify some areas that maybe would help improve the selection of individuals that are to enter employment or your apprenticeship. We do have a lot of experience with different selection procedures, interview processes, recruitment that has been really successful that we can help you with as well.
And that's really where you kind of also, right, there's a little flexibility when we get to Appendix D, which is the employer acceptance agreement, which is basically the agreement of for apprenticeship standards that you've gone through the standards. You looked at the Appendix A and the registration agreement for the following duration of the apprentice, that the apprentice are guaranteed to a skilled and competent journey worker, which we talked about a little bit about supervision, training, the education and the selection process, which we talked about. We can help you there as well. And this is a document that's then signed by you as the employer and PHTA for both of your records. And really, once we get that, this is the next step are moving in and getting your people trained, right? We've got you set up. You're feeling good. We then move into, sorry, my screen is not participating. There we go. Into registering your apprentices. So what we do is then schedule a call with our friends here at the Institute for American Apprenticeships. They are our second hand and really want to make this easy for you as the employer to get all the paperwork done, filling out the right forms. They walk through all that process with you on a separate call, make it super, super easy for you, show you all the processes and everything here. And I think Tasha is going to give us a little bit more information on this process and certainly, again, answer any questions you have when we get to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Beth. Oops, hold on 1 second. Sorry about that. Okay, well, happy New Year, everyone. It's great to see some familiar faces again. So, yeah, so like Steph said, as soon as you go through all the appendices and you complete your Appendix D, or which is that employer acceptance agreement, what will happen is that we at IA will go ahead and take those forms, that information, and we'll enter you in as a member as an employer into RAPID. So RAPID stands for Registered Apprenticeship Partners Information Data System. Kind of long, that's why we call it RAPIDs. And this just essentially holds all of your apprentices' data in there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and schedule a very non-painful introductory call with us. It's very simple, it's very short, and we'll go over those required forms to get you registered. So it's a very simple process. You know, we really do help with a lot of the heavy lifting there. Steph has as well too already. The call will be short. You know, it's really just 30 minutes. If you do have questions though, we're definitely happy to go over it with you during that call. And we'll go over those required forms, right? So those forms are what populates for each apprentice for your apprenticeship. Once you have those apprentices ready to register, we'll go ahead and populate for you the apprentice agreement form, formerly known as the ETA 671, and the voluntary disability disclosure form for your apprentices to sign. Once these forms are signed, we'll get them uploaded and submitted to the U.S. Department of Labor, or the DOL, onto RAPIDS, and that apprentice will be officially registered in the apprenticeship. So, you know, as Katie was mentioning earlier, this does fulfill, you know, the responsibilities in the standards as sponsor, right? So, and one more time, as mentioned, RAPIDS is a system used to hold all the apprentice data. So that's, you know, the registration, cancellations, terminations, as we were kind of talking about earlier, if for some reason they weren't a good fit. And also if there are any changes or additions to the apprentice status that needs to be updated within RAPIDS. If there are changes, we just make sure to update that into RAPIDS within 45 days. And we can definitely talk a little bit more about that too on our scheduled call when we have it. Any questions on that about? No? Okay.
That's the easy part. You know, we really want to make this as easy as possible for you as the employer to get things going, because we know the real part and the meat of this is, right, is getting your people trained and educated. And, you know, we're here to make that paperwork and all that stuff as easy as possible, give you tools and resources to really focus your time on the mentorship and the training with your team and the apprentices. So education, right? That's what we're here for. Get the training, get your folks certified, get them all these classes so that they can then take that and demonstrate it out in the field. So what I'd like to do here is I'm gonna come out of my PowerPoint and show you exactly. So at this point now, okay, we've got your apprentices, we got your information. Myself or my team then goes into the back end of PHTA's database, sets them up in our database, creates their record, creates their email address, their website login, creates all the education within their member profile. So then your apprentice will get an email just giving them the link to the website and giving them instructions on how to log in and access their education. And that happens right away. That's pretty instantaneous once we've got everything and got them into the system. So let me just skip here and show you can show and see this live. So they've gone here to the PHTA website. I've already logged in because I was afraid I was going to forget my username and password, but they log in right here up in the corner. And again, these instructions will lay this all out. Simple next step is they're going to click on My Education. And it's making me log back in because I waited too long. That's no problem. Let's log in right here. All right, and you can see there's a lot of courses here for our apprentices because there's a lot of education and training. But right here, listed is all their courses and easy to get right into. Again, there are, this is on the construction side. So you can jump into any of these. So if you just went right into indoor pool air quality, click start. It's going to ask you if you want to open in a new window. Sure. They can launch their education right there.
Oh, I've got to concentrate, but my headache just won't let up. What does that smell?
And they can start doing their training. So you as the employer can then see and connect with PHTA, and we can provide updates on where your apprentice is throughout their education, what they've completed, what they started, what they haven't started. Your apprentice will also have their transcript, which they can access. But at any time, these courses are available. And the great thing about the apprenticeship program and having all this education here online is not only is it accessible all this time and throughout the duration of their apprenticeship program, but let's say they've gone through a course, whether it's one of these shorter ones like indoor air quality or like the certified maintenance specialist course, they can go back at any time and review modules within those courses or review this course at any time. So the great thing is as they're going out and then demonstrating out in the field what they're learning here online, and you're evaluating them and talking to them about what they're learning and they're demonstrating that, you can always go back and say, you know what, let's do that water chemistry again, or let's look at that hydraulics unit again and really take another dive through there. And these courses, you know, there's a mixture there and there. There's some knowledge learning tests in there to kind of test and demonstrate. So also, if you're worried about maybe your apprentice is just starting it and then getting on their cell phone and playing a game, they're not going to pass those knowledge checks. Those knowledge checks are going to pop up to make sure that they're paying attention. And then at some of the larger ones, there's also full practice exams that they can take to demonstrate what they're learning. And then they'll be able to see their score, and we'll be able to share that with you as the employer as well. But again, we tried to make it as easy as possible, all in one location, so that your apprentice signs in and accesses their education. And whether you get them on a training schedule, so it's, you know, on Fridays they're taking certain courses, or you're having them doing during the lunchtime, it's easy for them to pop on and take these courses and start where they passed off, or go back again to courses they've already taken to double up on that knowledge and make sure that it has soaked in.
Quick question from the
Yeah.
chat. Seth, are the courses listed in the order that they should take them, or can they bounce around?
So we do have, you know, recommended pathways of the courses. Like, for example, on the service side, we want the apprentice to start with a CPO because that is the first level of the service pathway, and then the CMS and the CST. It is not set or constricted that they must take this course first before they move on to the second course. And part of that reason we did that is because we know that every apprentice might be at a different stage within their career. So you might have someone that's been working for you for a year or two that has more experience, and you know, you might want to jump them around, or based on how the time that they have or what you are setting up in your own training is flexible to meet that and can be adapted to your current training schedule and supplement that. So there's recommendations on those pathways, and certainly, when we have our calls one-on-one, we can talk about those pathways and where your apprentice is at, and more information about those courses and how that fits into your current training module. But those courses are open, so it's part of that mentorship, right, between you or the journey worker and that apprentice, that they follow the path that you want them to follow in getting those courses. So I think, really right now, like, we want to just open it up to any questions, thoughts, concerns, anything about anything you've learned today, or anything about apprenticeship programs as well. We've got our experts on the call to certainly dive into any other areas. So don't be shy, ask away.
I do have one question, if I may.
Sure.
So from what I've read and what I've been told, I guess, about this apprenticeship program is I sign a guy up, he goes through this program. At the end of this program, he's basically a really competent swimming pool guy, right? That's what I'm looking for. CPO, CMS, CST, CSP, maybe, I'm not sure. But the ratings or the designations that he needs, the certifications that he needs to be competent are going to be available to him. Am I correct? Or could you explain what they get after the program that kind of brings it all together?
Yeah, great question. So as they're going through the pathway, so like you mentioned, those service certifications, they have the course and the content and everything, and then even at those other ones, they have the knowledge check practice exams. So even during their certification, or I'm sorry, during their apprenticeship or after, and they complete these courses and demonstrated that they have the knowledge and the experience, you can have them sit for that certification exam. And that's where they can achieve that CPO with an instructor or CMS or CST exam afterwards. So like on the service side, for example, you can have someone fully complete it and then take the certification exams and be a certified pool operator, certified maintenance specialist, certified service technician, and then hold the apprenticeship credential from the U.S. Department of Labor. So they have all the knowledge and the content. Really, then it's up to you and your apprentice if you want to get them certified during or after the process.
I see. So they get the education base, but they don't get the actual certifications. That would be a separate test through people like Kevin Tucker here.
Oh, yeah, if Kevin's on it, he's a great example. He's a wonderful instructor for us. Hi, Kevin. I'm sure he'd be happy to help.
We've sent lots of guys through Kevin, and Kevin does a great job. So in fact, I've got pretty much all of my certifications myself from Kevin. So I can't recommend it enough. Use Kevin, please.
Perfect example of then, taking that next step and getting those exams. So then they hold that certification, and that's great for the apprentice, and then great for you as the employer too, to promote that to your customers about what my crew is skilled, they're certified, they've gone through these programs, they've demonstrated their knowledge, and this is why I stand out versus my competition. Questions, concerns, thoughts? Any other open? I know we got some chat box going. Katie, is there some? Sorry,
There
you gonna have maybe
are.
there?
So Nick is asking, what if an apprentice was already CPO certified? Would they get an automatic pass for that?
So that's a wonderful question. So if they've already, any of your apprentices have taken any of those courses, that counts. So that credit is there. So long as that CPO is still an active certification within the window of the 5 years for the CPO that they got certified, it automatically counts. So yes, they've got that credit. So I know sometimes people maybe have had their CMS or the CPO, which is our most commonly certified folks. Absolutely, it counts as credit. And the great thing is we'll have that in our system, in our database. So we'll be able to instantly connect that as part of their apprenticeship and show them have I already accomplished that. And the great thing too is they still have then that CPO course as part of the reference, even though they've taken it.
Oh, instead of 6 in the morning.
I don't know. It sounded like, did someone have a question or?
So, when they're taking the apprenticeship program and going through it, so like if you take your CPO and you take your CST and CMS, you get you're accumulating like the continuing education units. What is that for? Do you get those with this?
Oh yeah, yep. They're all PHTA certified backed education. So let's say if you already have the CPO or the CMS, for example, or any of your other certifications and it's up for renewal, and that apprentice is going through this program, all of our courses there have CEUs based on the duration of that course. And that would count. So if they're up for a renewal during that period, they've got their hours already. And they can just renew the process because that's in their record as well. So one of the questions is there an additional cost for companies to get certifications outside of the program? Yes, the fee for the certification exam is if you're taking it online, and that fee basically goes for Prometric, which handles all the exams, whether you're doing it virtually with somebody online or if you're doing it live at a testing center.
One more question for me. So I have CPO, CPI, CST, CSP. Could I take the apprentice program myself and go through it as well?
I mean, I guess, well, I'm going to see if my colleagues there have maybe a better answer for that. I mean, I guess you could go through it, but as the employer, John, like, who would be your journey worker?
Yeah, that's the point, right? I guess I'm the journey worker, but
You're a
Yeah.
man.
But
What
but
you
I
might
want
wanna-
I want that designation though. I want the designation that I went through the program, because then that gives me a good kind of a walkthrough for my employees as I do. Maybe I don't need it. I don't know. I'm just asking.
What you might want to do is you could take a look at the work process schedule and see, look through all of the areas to see if there are any areas that maybe are new for you. I'm guessing maybe not, but I'm gonna maybe ask Steve. I know in some states they have what's called like the grandfather clause for like journey workers to get their apprenticeship completion. Is that only when there are no other journey workers in the organization?
I would have to explore that, Katie.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
factually answer that right now. I
Okay.
definitely have to look into it. Yep.
John, let's talk afterwards. We can find a creative way to get you all educated and certified. One of the other questions
Maybe you can test out of it.
Yeah, yeah. There was one question here. So someone with all certifications, have they completed the program? Certainly if you have taken a majority of that education, you would have at least created that education. You still need the on-the-job training hours for each of the certification programs, but obviously as an apprentice, you would have pretty much a leg up there, having that you've gone through most of the education, if not all. If you've gone through all of it, then you definitely got a leg up. It still serves as a resource, but you still, in order to complete the program, also have to have the on-the-job training hours. And Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can backtrack 750 hours. So then again, it becomes more of then moving through that program just on the hours if you've already taken all of that education, which would be great. That means you definitely got your people getting trained and educated. All right, then let's Katie and Steve, this is I think always a great question. Are there tax benefits for employers who participate in the program?
Yeah, so generally speaking, you're going to have to, that's a state by state tax benefit, if there even are any. Each state handles it a little bit different. Some of it is on a per year that you're keeping registered apprentices. Some it's a flat dollar amount and they only reimburse you once. We would need to know more details, I guess, about what state you're in, and then we'd need to do the research about what tax credits are available in your state.
Great, yeah, and we certainly can explore that with folks. I know we had a group out in Colorado. We got our program on the EPTL list there, and they're taking advantage of working with them. So a great example of they're finding those opportunities to help you out. But as Steve said, every state is different.
I will point out that there is certainly a significant amount of apprenticeship funding flowing through the workforce system in all states throughout the US. And to help offset some of the costs of, for example, the related instruction costs, there are typically opportunities that again is going to be managed on a state-by-state basis. And workforce boards are your typical source to go to kind of explore what is available and what they would cover. And we can certainly support, and maybe Seth, that's a future conversation or presentation we do, but that is something that we could certainly talk about more.
There's a question here. Is there training for the employers to be able to directly administrate the program? Yep, that's what we're here for, to help you, whether it's walking through the program or through some of the tools and resources that we've created. We have some spreadsheets that help with tracking of your apprentices and setting up evaluations throughout the period. We have a lot of tools and resources. You know, one of the key components we feel very strongly about between that relationship of the journey worker and the apprentices, that mentorship. And what does that mean? And we have tons of resources there to help you as an employer to better that experience and to go through the process. Again, jumping on calls to help with whether it's online training or any of the processes, the standards. That's what we're here for, to help you as the employer have the most successful relationship and experience and engagement with the program. Love all the questions. This is great. Sorry, just trying to read through, make sure I don't repeat myself too much.
So how do we get the journeyman, like our first journeyman? You said the employer, but what if we're like a service manager or somebody else? Like, what if I want my department heads to be like for each like construction and then service? Me being if the owner, not being the one that would be doing the mentoring, but the department heads would be. How do we get that? Like, how do we get to that point?
Would
Oh,
those?
go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead, Steve.
So Matt, the primary way you would do that is you would take the appendix, which Seth would share with you, and you'd review what those work processes or competencies are that define when someone is successful. And you'd evaluate your staff and just say, all right, who meets all of these requirements? Who is competent in all of these areas? That ultimately is your list of journey workers. Seth or Katie, please add.
Yep, were you able to find that, Matt? I see you searching through. Are you looking at the list of competencies there?
Behavioral competencies?
Yep, if you go back even one more page, the technical competencies, that's
Okay.
that's the list you would want to look through. And
Okay.
like Steve said, you could take a look at your existing staff. And you know, it's a little bit more than those behavioral competencies too. Not everybody wants to be a mentor. Not everyone might on your staff might have those soft skills or the skill sets that it takes to be a mentor. You know, patience, the ability to you know, provide feedback. Providing feedback sometimes is really difficult, and not everyone is built for that. So taking a look at those areas too, and what it determines a good mentor should also come into play. So just also take that into consideration when determining who those folks are.
Okay. Is there any sort of form or any sort of like paperwork, like as you get through these apprenticeships, right? They now become journeymen, right? So they have that Department of Labor certification. Are the journeymen that we choose at the beginning have any way of getting this certification or having a journeyman title with?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And it is something that comes up that like, oh, I didn't have this opportunity to go through this program. I didn't have this opportunity to gain that credential. I think, you know, there isn't anything like officially registered. Like if they're already competent in the apprenticeship, it like they likely won't be able to go through it if they're already a journey worker. So unfortunately, I don't really think so. I did see Steve came off mute. Is there
Yeah, I
anything?
agree with Katie.
Yeah.
Once you've deemed someone as competent, that kind of eliminates the need for them to become an apprentice, and they wouldn't be registered.
They wouldn't be registered, but certainly, Matthew, there's opportunities if your people are looking for the certification side, just the education side. Obviously, their PhD has a ton of education that if they feel that they're being left out, that we can connect with. You're very familiar with our education side and the certifications and training, but certainly we've had some employers where they've, people that were going to be their journey workers were like, well, I want to get some training and certifications too if I can't go through this. But it was a great way for them to say, oh man, they're really interested in learning and having that knowledge or, kind of those skills again. So certainly I can work with anybody on the other side that on any of our education and training.
Right. Getting away from like traditional like training, where I go and get certified or whatever, and then I go out and everybody's been trained by somebody, right? So everybody, there's always a name that associated with some sort of training. But with the great thing about Pool and Hot Tub Alliance is you're getting those standards, those like everybody's kind of on an equal level of learning, or at least the things in which they are learning. And then you're getting that experience on top of the information that is pretty basic or pretty much like a standard across the board. This is kind of getting us away from that, like giving us a different pathway opposed to that traditional training. So that's why I was just wondering about the journeyman.
Mhm.
I think one of the great things about this apprenticeship program is that if you have someone go through the program now and someone starting 6 months from now, they may be on very different jobs and very different experiences, but the training in the classroom at least helps level set their skills so that when they graduate and become a journeyman, they're all consistent. And so, everyone who's gone through the apprenticeship program has the same skill set. You can put them on any job site and have them do the work. Whereas, if you didn't have them in the program, it depends on the mentor and the jobs that came up while they were being trained, and did they fully complete everything that's in the apprenticeship program. It's a judgment call on whether they would or not. So, for me, that consistency and level set over time is the real value in the program.
Very well said.
I know we just got 2 minutes left, and I know there's still a lot of questions here that I might have not answered. I'm going to try to go through a couple more, but obviously myself and the rest of the team here is available to answer questions and set up one-on-one meetings and go through anything that we've learned here. And this is obviously being recorded as well, so you can go back. Our December webinar was also recorded, and that's available. And we'll make sure we send everything out to the group. There was one question about the forms and everything you've seen here. You can download them directly from the PHTA website. I can certainly send you any sort of the PDF and copies as well, so that you have them if you want to print them out or start your journey in completing those paperworks and everything.
Seth,
Oh yeah, please.
the questions that we're not able to get to today, do you have access to those after? Because maybe we could answer them in email and email all of the answers out too, just so that we do address all of the questions there.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can pull this out here, because
Okay.
I definitely don't want to miss anyone's question or not get you the answers. But if I do apologize, but I'm here, and we'll make sure we get you all those questions answered for you right away. I do see one other question, because I think this is a good question, certainly important. How long do they have access to the courses? They have access during the duration of their apprenticeship program. That education is up on the LMS the full time. And then, are there additional fees for additional time? Nope, they are not. We do not charge the student if they look at it twice or need more time. We want to keep those resources there for the apprentice, so that they have that as a knowledge for them. The apprenticeship program, how long does it expected to be on the program? Obviously, if somebody's, we talked about, has some of the education already or has some of the hours already, that program might accelerate. But it is obtaining those on-the-job training hours. So someone could complete the program within a year, or again, and I know sometimes we're seasonal, right? So that's often a question we hear if somebody's, hey, I'm up here in Minnesota, what happens? We can pause that apprenticeship program while maybe they're, shoveling snow or doing something else during the winter hours. But it's a great time to get educated and trained. And one last real quick question: if they take a live course with someone like our instructor here, on Kevin Tucker, somewhere here, I know does a lot of teaching for us, that counts. And so if you say, hey, Seth, I've already got my CMS or CSD or CPO, I did it with Kevin, no problem. I'm not going to try to double dip you on that. We can certainly work out a reduced price, a discount there on what the education costs, so that you don't feel like you're getting dinged twice. This is all about education and training. We want you to do it how you want to do it, and give you all the tools and resources to train your people. I'm gonna just throw my information up here really quick, so that everyone has that, so you can hopefully see that and reach out to me anytime. Again, set up calls, one-on-one, email me, call me, reach out to me. Hopefully I'll get through some of these questions and reach back out to you. But please don't be shy. We appreciate your time for being here and your interest in the apprenticeship program. Education, training, whatever you need, just reach out to us, and let's get your people trained so that you got the best 2024.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week and a good upcoming weekend.